Doing good.
And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. The RotoHackers are back, your unauthorized reporters of fantasy football news and information. I am your host, AJ Herschel, also known as The Kid. Over there in the middle, you've got Jude Buddha, former interim coach of the Washington Redskins. And then all the way on the right, you've got the absolute stud. It's Jared!
Nice.
And we are your unauthorized reporters of fantasy football news and information. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Looking forward to talking some fantasy football.
Yeah, it should be fun. And I guess, Saturday morning, first thing we always talk about. Let's go ahead and run with our thoughts on Thursday. Texans and Colts. Jared, I know you're a Colts fan. What'd you think?
Well, I'm a Colts fan, but I'm a Colts fan who is just kind of wants them to tank in order to get another quarterback. So,
you're not a Brissett believer?
I don't know how many Brissett believers there are after games like Thursday night.
I love Brissett. I don't know why you hate him so much.
I don't hate him. It's just like, but I mean, I think that's the thing with like people who like him is like he's got to be the most likable guy. Seriously, the most likable guy on the planet, because the indie media just apologizes for everything that he. I mean, he could he could throw for 130 yards against the Bucks with the best offensive line, the best running game, and four of the top receivers in the league, and they would be like, and the media would be like, yeah, but it's his wide receiver 5 was out, and there was a slight breeze blowing.
But get down to the nitty gritty. What is it you don't like about him? His inability to.
So it's hard to tell in a way, like how much the coaches are limiting him on certain things if they just don't trust him or what, but he doesn't really he doesn't seem to really be willing to take chances down the field. Like his numbers started out great at the beginning of the year because he had tons of touchdowns and almost no interceptions, but it was like the running game was just churning that, powering that whole team. And then he would rack up touchdowns with short throws. But he wasn't really, driving the engine of the offense. And so he's had a couple of big games against just horrendous defenses. And, but, again, the Colts have one of the best offensive lines and best running games, and the receivers, they haven't been, they're like they were last year with Andrew Luck, and Andrew Luck still threw for, 4,600 yards and 39 touchdowns, which nobody's going to be Andrew Luck. But Jacoby's averaging like 190 passing yards a game, like in an era where people are putting up video game numbers, like you're playing Madden on rookie or something, he's throwing up 190 yards a game. It's just, he's not always the most, he's got a tremendous arm. He's not always the most accurate. He just doesn't take chances down the field. He doesn't seem to just go through the reads quick enough. It's multiple things. I think we've just seen like what his ceiling is, and it's like Colin Cowherd said this week. Like he's solid. He's very solid, but he's playing in a league where in order to really win, you have to have somebody special.
Jude Buddha, what do you think?
Man, I don't know. I think that kind of like, to me, that kind of gets too much to the like wanting the shiny new toy. Like everybody wants to have Mahomes. Like, and I get he's Mahomes and Watson and well, of course, Lamar Jackson. Like these guys are special, you'd say, right? But I think you got to have the Andy Daltons of the world.
You do. I mean, you're just inevitably going to, because you can only have so many guys that are special. But let's look and see what the Andy Daltons of the world have done. Andy Dalton isn't starting anymore.
Well, but like the Joe, what's his name?
Joe Flacco.
Joe Flacco's the like when you can win Super Bowls with Joe Flacco's.
You can, but I mean, they're the rare exception to the rule. I mean, if you look at the list of quarterbacks that have won the Super Bowl over the last 20 years or so, you're going to see a lot of Brady, a lot of Mannings, multiple
a lot of Russell
Mannings,
Wilsons,
Wilsons. Yeah, I've been there twice, won it once. Can you get on a run and like have a guy, if you've got a great defense and great running game and everything lines up just right, and you get a guy that gets hot like a Flacco at the right time, because the Ravens barely made the playoffs that year. Like they had to have like this miracle play in the last game, I think, of the regular season in order to just sneak in. They had to have this miracle throw in order to beat the Broncos, because that was when, I think that was Peyton's first year with the Broncos. They had really lost to them, and they had to have this miracle thing. Or you have a situation like the Eagles where Carson Wentz took them most of the year, got hurt the last couple of games, and then Foles got hot. But it's just so, like, you have to have so many things come together.
But I feel like putting all your eggs in the basket of having a quarterback, I think you can see, like with Mahomes right now, although I do think that they could very well win the Super Bowl this year easily. But I feel like there's too much emphasis on having the hot shot quarterback, and like I think that lends itself to a bad culture in the NFL, to where they look for that guy, they get the rookie, they play him right away, hoping he's and they don't develop. There's not this like long game. It's so much like right here, right now type stuff.
Yeah, but even just looking at the last, like, if we're just talking about, who's going to take you the distance, if we're just looking at Super Bowl winners from the last 10, 15 years, literally everything, you're going to get a Rodgers, you're going to get a Breeze, you're going to get a Manning, you're going to get a Wilson. And then, Nick Foles played great in the playoffs, but then all the rest are Brady. Like, all of the Super Bowl, if you want to get to the championship and win it, yes, you need a great quarterback. You also need a well-oiled team. There are teams who can win, with either a great defense or they have a great run game, and that's what runs their entire system. But it makes it so much easier when you have a quarterback orchestrating your entire team.
Yeah, but I think that's my point. Is that Brady, Manning, when he was throwing ducks, if you look at the last, I don't see Brady as this like all-star guy on his own. I feel like the system and the coach really, I mean, like, he's just a mediocre athlete.
Go to like just a city square in Boston and start shouting that, but set up a camera, set up like a live feed first, so that we can see the results of that. Please.
Okay, well, let's get back to what we were talking about.
Jude Buddha, what do you think about
just to finish off with that, though? I mean, I think you're right in that a lot of teams get the quarterback, but then they don't put the right pieces around him. Like Aaron Rodgers has been a victim of that. It's like, it's kind of, or Manning, like with the Colts years, it's like, let's just put more offensive weapons around him. And really, I think that's sort of the reverse of what you need to do, because if you have a great guy like that, he will make your skill players better. What you really need to focus on is putting an offensive line in front of him so that you don't get him killed like, like Andrew Luck, or even to a certain extent Manning before him in the end. So you need to have an offensive line as opposed to these star receivers. Andrew Luck, again, threw for 4,600 yards and 39 touchdowns last year with T.Y. Hilton and a bunch of guys that you would take off of the scrap heap, but so if you have a good defense and you have a good offensive line, the skill positions, you can get by with other stuff. And so I think that's the thing. And I just don't think there's any, I think it's just hard to downplay the importance of quarterback, because on the offensive side of the ball, the guy touches the ball every play, unless you run some sort of crazy wildcat play or something, he touches. So just, by definition, the guy who's going to be touching the ball the most is going to have the most impact. And I think you have to have, if you can be elite there, it puts you so far above everybody else.
I agree.
Well, Jude Buddha, what did you think about Thursday night's game?
So I had a suspicion about Jonathan Williams. I swear, like 2 years ago, he was the practice squad star. Everybody was talking about him. Like in fantasy, I had him everywhere. Like I'm like, he's gonna blow up. He's gonna be the best. And he was like on so many. Everybody. It seemed like every time somebody like I read something about him, like he's gonna be a star this year. Keep your eye on him. The next day he was cut. I don't know what that was about. Off field, I don't know what that was about. But I think Thursday night, we see what people were talking about. Like I don't think he's elite by any stretch of the imagination, but he has some good cutting ability, speed, and burst that I was pretty impressed by.
Yeah, I kind of trashed Jonathan Williams in Arkansas football last time, so I'm not apologizing to Arkansas, but I am going to apologize to Jonathan Williams. Yeah, he showed up. He had a good game The thing that shocked me was him getting 26 carries. That was the thing that shocked me so much because I did not think he was going to get that kind of workload.
Mac never got
game one.
No,
well, he got injured almost every game.
And they said, and Judah said that they changed it Thursday. I didn't see this, but they had said like up until Thursday at least, like, oh yeah, it's going to be like basically a 3-man committee. Right, we're going to work Jordan Wilkins in. We're going to work Naheem Hines in, and Hines did get a little bit of work, but like I just there was never any indication, at least up until that day, that he was going to get that kind of workload. Yeah.
So that was just the thing that completely surprised me. I mean,
but if you look at the history of the Colts, I was thinking about it, like, man, I picked them up several places. I should have picked them up more. The history, like, think about this time of year, go back a couple of years, and this is kind of the modus operandi for the Colts is they latch on, something happens, they latch on, they always have these like injury prone running backs. And then for the playoff push, they always have some guy you've never heard of. Who is it? Like
Ahmed Bradshaw.
Bradshaw. Yeah. He got hurt. Oh yeah. I guess the year before he was that guy. And then it's kind of like this ongoing thing, but no, there was not Sherman Williams. There's something like Kerman Williams or something like that. Do you guys remember that guy?
I don't know, but I mean, you're having to go back. You have to go back through like previous administrations, though. And that's why it's hard for me to like. I think part of it is like if it's with the same team, but it's previous administrations. Like some of that's just sort of coincidental,
What y'all think about the Texans, though? Hops showed up, had himself a great game, but they got held to 20 points.
It was kind of like, okay, he is an amazing player, but he didn't get a lot of touches. He got less than he usually gets. And I mean, those were touchdowns he got. Yeah. They weren't a lot of did he end up
He had 94 yards.
He didn't crack 100. Yards. He had 94.
Yeah. So as an owner in one league where I really need him, it's funny. Jared said, I really needed that touchdown. I was like texting him the same thing because it's that league where I was dead last but everybody's like 6-5 or something like that, And so, I don't know. I'm still a little, I don't feel like I can trust him yet. Like he's awesome. I hope he continues to get the touchdowns.
Yeah, that's been one of the main differences, as well. He's not getting as many targets, but the touchdowns just haven't been there either. But I think if you can make it to the playoffs, see, the tough thing with you like trying to make it in that league is I think next week he's got New England. So next week he's got Stephon Gilmore, and New England's whole thing is take away the other team's top option and take away their running game. And so
we'll see if they can do that. I think this week's a big test for them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But then in the playoffs, like he gets Tennessee and Tampa. I mean, Tampa, the ultimate, fantasy matchup. So
yes. Even though granted, I mean, looking at Hopkins, though, I know he had a down week in targets this week, but past 5 out of 6, he had 11 or more every game, except for that last game where he had 8 targets. So he's a PPR monster. at this point, honestly.
Well, but part of that too is like Will Fuller's been out, and then Will Fuller came back for this game, and I think Will Fuller, of course,
he got 140 yards,
led him in targets, and had 140 yards. So
it was interesting. And now they have 10 days to get healthy too, because Will Fuller was kind of I couldn't tell if he was saying like pointing at his hamstring and saying like still doing it, or if he was saying I'm hurting. Like I couldn't tell.
I couldn't either. I mean, he stayed in, and he's still like, I thought like, oh, maybe he's just going to be like a decoy for the rest of the game or something, but he still caught balls. So I think, I don't know what that little signal was where he tapped his hamstring, but he seemed to be okay. Maybe he felt something in it, but
do you guys think he's going to be worth picking up this week? Because he's probably going to be undoubtedly that hot pickup again.
Go ahead.
Nah, go ahead. It's fine.
I think it depends on your style of play. If you are like somebody that likes high upside, then he's your man. If you're somebody who's a little safer, or you're already, or you're trying to get in the playoffs, you need to be more safe. I don't think he's your man. I don't know. What do you think, J-Rod?
I kind of, if he's always a risk because he's always hurt a lot. But like it's hard to argue with the rest of his schedule, because I think next week could still be a good week for him, because I think they're going to try to take away DeAndre Hopkins. They're going to try to take away the running game. So I think he could catch balls next week. I don't remember who he's got in week 14. Okay, well, that's a tough one. But then after that, Tennessee and Tampa. And so
Denver's actually not too tough for number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like Cortland Sutton when Emmanuel Sanders was there. Or no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of when they were playing the Chargers. When the Broncos were playing the Chargers.
It's a similar thing.
Yeah. So it's possible. I don't know that I would love that matchup, but I mean, there was a league where I wish I had picked him up and played him. I thought about it, but I'm like, you never know with him if you're gonna get 7 points or 40. So, and that 40 only happened once. So, anyway, I think he is a good pickup.
Jude Buddha, what do you think?
I started. I said depends on your.
All right. Yeah.
What do you think?
Oh my god, I've been on the Will Fuller train so many, like it's man. So
on and off again.
it's ridiculous, honestly. I had him at the beginning of the year, then he blew up for 40, and then I picked him up, and then he did nothing again and got injured, and so I dropped him again, and now he's back. I think that if you're in a higher playoff position and you've got one of your like flex spot players with like a bad playoff matchup or something, I think he's great because he's got Tampa. I think if you're lower in trying to fight to get in the playoffs, it's a risk, definitely, but it might be a risk you have to take. I think it's one of those positions where you know where your weak spot is. If you've got a weak spot at running back, you might need to get one of those. If you've got a weak spot at wide receiver, Will Fuller might not be a bad choice. So that's my thought on Will Fuller. 710 and Samuel Wilson, thank you for joining the show. Welcome to RotoHackers. Good to see y'all again. 710S, he says he might start Josh Gordon, N'Keal Harry, and Hunter Renfrow. Do any of them seem too risky? He also has Emmanuel Sanders, Jude Buddha. I saw your eyes just fly. Your eyebrows just shot up at that one.
These are some of my candidates for league winners. Like I think I suggested that we talk about potential league winners, like guys that you don't expect to come on at the end. There's always a couple players, a handful usually, that come on at the end of the year nobody expected. Typically rookies haven't. So Sanders and N'Keal Harry are 2 of mine, and I think I seriously considered putting Josh Gordon in there because I think these are guys. N'Keal Harry to me is really interesting. I don't know that I want to trust him, but as the Patriots have to sort of change their game, they've got more injuries to deal with right now, and they are struggling with what do you call it? Stretching the field, as they say. They're having trouble with the deep pass, and I think N'Keal Harry could be the answer there, but I'm not sure. I haven't really seen him play much.
So for this week, for him starting any of those guys, what do you think?
I start Sanders. I think Sanders is going to go off this. Unless Jordan Howard plays, I would start Sanders.
Wait, Jordan Howard? Jordan Howard.
He's talking. He's talking about.
Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would start Sanders. I think he's going to play.
Oh yeah. Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, the tough thing with Sanders is just I would try to see like what they're saying about his ribs again before the game, because you're running the risk of him, getting a catch or two and exiting the game again, which is something we kind of talked about last week, was with the risk of playing him, is like with this rib injury, if with it being a pain thing, you look at how wide receivers are being tackled. They're, catching the ball and falling forward with a 200-pound guy, on their back. So I think that's pretty risky unless I think you probably have to, if they say, yeah, he's pretty good to go, I think you have to start him. But I think it's pretty risky. And I don't trust Gordon or Harry this week.
Yeah.
I think Harry, like Jude said, can be a bench stash, a good bench stash for later in the season, maybe, to see if he, becomes that deep threat for New England. Gordon, we just don't know, unless somehow Tyler Lockett didn't play or something. Gordon's the number 3 wide receiver in that run first offense, really. And it really maybe even he's probably even the number 4 option in the passing game behind the tight ends too, because Russell Wilson likes to throw to Hollister or whoever's in there at the time. So, I mean, for me, it would be, Sanders 1 easily if he's healthy. If that sounds pretty shaky, then probably Renfrow. I mean, Renfrow's been pretty consistent. He's had a pretty solid floor, and he's got the Jets. So I think that's a pretty good matchup.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, because he, against bad defenses, he's been pretty good, getting consistent 10+ points against top 10 or worse defenses against wide receivers. So I like Renfrow a lot this week. I think he could be a really good flex play this week. Sanders, I've got him a couple places. I just don't think he's healthy. I don't think he's healthy at all. The reports are saying he's not that healthy. I'm not liking him so far. Gordon and Nikhil, I mean, like Jude Buddha said, this is kind of funny because he's not dependent on injury. His team is dependent on injury instead. That's basically what it is. What? I know that makes no sense. His play is not going to be dependent on whether he gets injured. It's on whether everyone else gets injured. Because right now he's not a main option in the Patriots offense. Yes, Dorsett went out with a concussion, but I don't know what he's going to do. Gordon and Nikhil, they're deep dives, but if I'm trying to start someone this week, Renfrow has been doing decently consistently, and he's got a bad matchup this week. His Jets against wide receivers are terrible. So I like Hunter Renfrow a lot this week. Ray Gibson, thanks for joining the show. He says full PPR, Nick Foles or Ryan Tannehill for a flex. Interesting.
Ooh. They're right at the same
level.
Are.
Yeah.
Flip a coin.
Yeah.
I think Tannehill for safety, Foles for ceiling.
It's tough because Tannehill's at home, but he's against a slightly tougher defense. I mean, they're playing each other, and so Tannehill's at home, so that's a plus. But he's playing a tougher defense. Foles is on the road, just coming back from he's in his second game back from his injury, but Tennessee's a pretty weak pass defense.
Yeah,
I think it is sort of flip a coin, although I could also see a scenario where the Tennessee just tries to run it more in this game. Tannehill, I think, has been he's got a solid floor because of his running ability, Judah. But I feel like there's going to be a game where, but also he's, like there are games where he's putting up 20 points, but he's, throwing for 180 yards. And I feel like that sooner or later that there's going to be a game where that falls through and he doesn't, get you up to a solid total. I would very, very, very slightly maybe lean to Foles, just based on the Tennessee pass defense, but it really is almost flip a coin.
Yeah. This one is just so weird for me. I don't know. We talked a lot about this on Tuesday. And just all the quarterbacks or whatever. I mean, honestly, I picked up Foles somewhere. I think Tannehill's a decent play, but I like Nick Foles as well, especially because the thing that really is getting me to choose Foles is because of how well DJ Chark did last week. And if he beats whoever Tennessee's number one corner is, it's over. I think if Foles just gets it to him and Chark's wide open, they double him up. You've got D.D. Westbrook. I think Foles has just got the weapons to win this game in the pass offense.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, it's weapons versus offensive line. Tannehill has the offensive line that could protect him better than Nick Foles.
Oh, yeah.
I do believe.
True. But that could mean Derrick Henry, they get great blocks for Henry, and he runs.
He's the best running back in the league. So,
which is what you've said consistently from the start of the season, I believe.
No, ever since he hurt me, and he's going to continue. He is going to continue to wow people.
I'm amazed by this turnaround on Derrick Henry here. It was like, you know, I don't know, you're driving a race car down the track and then just hit the brakes, stop, and do a Tokyo drift 180 on a dime and go the other way.
I don't suggest anybody pick him up, but he is going to be amazing.
You don't suggest anyone pick him up?
No, I hate him.
What? Henry?
Yes.
What waiver wires is
he on?
No, not pick him up. Play him.
Okay.
Oh, I'm playing him.
Pick him up.
Samuel Wilson's got a question for us. He asks, is Josh Jacobs going to get stuffed?
I mean, is Michael Jordan going to get blocked?
Whoa, we're comparing Josh Jacobs to Michael Jordan here. Let's take a step back for a second.
I love Jacobs. I love watching him play, and I don't think that they give him the ball enough. This may be the game in which they unleash. I think he's finally healthy.
Yeah,
he's
healthy.
Again,
he's good to go for Sunday. Yep.
Yeah, and I think he gets they unleash the beast. I think particularly in the passing game, he's. I don't think people talk enough about how good of a pass catcher he is. What do you think?
Jared, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, he's done pretty well lately. The Jets, I think, are a little bit worse against the pass than they are against the run. So I don't think he's going to get stuffed.
I think it's the other way around with the Jets. They're better against the run than they are the pass.
Yeah.
Was that not what I said?
That's what you said. That's what you said.
Sorry, I misheard that.
Yeah. So the Jets are a little better against the run. So I don't know that he's going to, tear up. I don't know that he's going to have any personal yardage bests or anything like that, but it's hard to believe that he won't, fall into the end zone for at least one touchdown. So I don't expect this to be his best game or anything, but I think he's going to give you, pretty solid numbers.
Yeah. I think the key for me with this is that, before, I mean, recently the only bad, quote unquote, bad under 10-point game he's had has been against Houston. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what John Gruden did this offseason, but the Raiders are a functioning team, and Josh Jacobs is the centerpiece of that team. And I think he'll be fine. They're playing the Jets. The Jets don't intimidate me whatsoever, the stats even say. And I think Jacobs is going to have a fine game. I think his floor is at like 12 points for this week, honestly. That's his floor. I mean, I could just see him getting a hot start, and then they open up the pass and Tyrell Williams gets himself a touchdown. I am not a believer in the Jets defense this year. I think he'll be fine. I think Jacobs is going to be fine. X Contreras XD, good to see you. It's been a hot minute. He said, did you start Will Fuller this week? Oh my goodness. If you started Will Fuller, that is probably the greatest Thursday night pickup this week, this year. That's crazy.
Nice.
That's really nice. 7-10 started Watson, but nobody dropped Fuller. Really? The whole year?
I mean,
that's
I
crazy.
haven't seen him drop very often.
Really?
He's in several of my. I picked him up in a couple. He was on the waiver wire in a bunch, but he had been dropped. Like if it had been a weekend game, he would have come off waivers, but with it being a Thursday night game, he didn't. And then there were 2 leagues 2 leagues where he was a free agent, and one of them I really debated doing it, and I was just like, the Colts have done pretty well against like limiting big pass plays, so I regret doing it or not doing it in there. So
I actually just checked, and before Thursday night going on, now he's just on waivers. He is owned in one of my leagues.
That's
everything.
all?
Even 12-team leagues, he's still not owned in those. That is hilarious.
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at what he's done prior to this week, and I'm not sure he had been above 8 points, and except for that one 40-point game. So kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Samuel Wilson, we're going to hop back to our first comment saying that he loves Gabe's. And if I scroll down a little bit, he's talking about Taylor Gabriel. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he was a guy I brought up
last week.
Yeah, Tuesday, last week, Tuesday, as a potential waiver wire pickup. I think depending on what your options are, if you need a flex play or a wide receiver too, I think he's a solid. I mean, he got the last 3 or 4 games, he's been getting a good bit of attention. Last game, I think he had 14 targets, which I don't think he's going to get 14 targets again. Yeah. But I think he's a solid. Yeah. Depending if you're needy enough, I think he's a good guy to take a flyer on this week against the Giants.
Looks like the biscuit is starting too.
Yeah, that's
Biscuit's starting,
and that's. I was higher on him when it looked like that Chase Daniels might start in place of Trubisky. So, but in a way, maybe I don't know. Maybe this helps Gabriel. I don't think it helps Allen Robinson, but maybe this helps Gabriel because they know that they just need like a fast, speedy little guy to get open enough that Mitch Trubisky's horrible off-target throw won't go into the hands of a defender, and they can just get Gabriel in space, and he can catch the ball and just run with it. So,
Jude Buddha, what do you think?
I don't know. I think it does help. He's played the most. I mean, he's only played with the biscuit, so there is a little bit of chemistry between them. Taylor Gabriel has always been somebody that coaches have liked. Skill, the speedster, with good hands. I mean, he's a lot like who we were talking about, Fuller, in some ways, except he's a little bit more speedy underneath.
He's like Darren Sproles, but a wide receiver.
He is, yeah. That's a good.
Yeah, actually, I was going to say Tariq Cohen. He's like Tariq Cohen.
Tariq Cohen, but just a wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Have we seen them in 2 different places at the same time? Do we know that Tariq Cohen and Taylor Gabriel aren't the same person? They're on the same team. Is this a conspiracy? I don't know.
Yes,
we're gonna effort that.
Save us. Yeah, Taylor Gabriel. I will never forget what he did in the second quarter of the Washington Redskins game and caught literally all 3 touchdowns that game. He just scares me because, his target share has gone up over the last few games, but accepting the 14.1 and accepting the game against Washington is 2 big games. He's never had more than 6 targets, which makes me a little bit nervous. I mean, yes, he could be, the Bears we'll have horrible drives, and then we'll always just have that one random gimmicky play that gets us 70 yards, and then Pinheiro kicks a field goal. That's just what happens every single game. Maybe he's the guy to bust that big this week. I don't know. But I've said this time and time again. The Bears were good last year. Our offense was good because we were gimmicky. People caught up to the gimmicks, and now we cannot move efficiently as a regular offense. So if Gabriel gets something going, yeah. If you're in a deeper league, I would say 12 team. Yeah, definitely. But I would say I need at least one more week and then go on because I love Gabriel as a player. When we signed him a couple years back, I was so happy. But until he starts putting up something consistent fantasy-wise, he makes me nervous.
Yeah, I think it's just the matchup this week. I don't know if I would even play him. Well, maybe they get the Lions next week.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, maybe that one's usable too. But I think later on in the season, I think he's got a narrow window of usability because they later on in the season, they're at the Packers and stuff. So I don't know, but yeah, it depends on how desperate you are.
Yeah. 710 says normally he's not a fan of tiny players. What do you guys think about that? Because they do have a hard time. They do have typically getting injured. They have a history of getting injured. What do y'all think?
I think it's a tiny player league now. It used to be that was a bad thing, but I mean, you look at the league now; it's the tiny players, especially for fantasy. I think that could win your. I mean, look at tell that to McCaffrey. McCaffrey's a tiny player. He's strong as a beast. But that's the thing that kind of had me off of McCaffrey when he first came into the league. That I wish I had just ignored.
Yeah, it used to be. It's just shifted in the last few years, kind of like the way the NBA shifted to it really both leagues have been the same. Like NBA shifted from a big man league where Shaq was dominating, Tim Duncan was dominating, to a little guy shoot the three league. And the NFL has kind of followed a similar path where quarterbacks have gotten smaller with Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, and Lamar Jackson isn't that tall. I mean,
Lamar Jackson's taller than I thought, though.
What is he? He's not bigger than is he 6'2" even, or is he like 6?
I saw him next to the coach. And of course, the coach is tiny.
I thought he was around like 6 foot 6'1" or something.
He's 6'2", 212.
6'2". Okay, so 6'2". So 6'2", 6'2" solid. I mean, for a quarterback, it's not that tall.
You're right.
But Murray and Wilson, guys like that. Tua's not. He may be more kind of like Lamar Jackson, about 6'2"
And look what happened to him
if he's healthy. Well, okay. Well, that was because he got tackled by two defenders and fell on his hip.
I'm joking.
But you look at the same thing, and it's kind of, the same thing has happened in sort of the wide receiver, like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is, one of the best wide receivers in the league. So
downtown Antonio Brown. I mean, most of them.
Julian Edelman, so a lot of guys, like where it used to be, you had to have, the 6'3" receiver that could, jump out of the gym. Now it's just not the same way. So I know what 710 is talking about. I'd always like shied away from time, because for a long time it was like the, Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson was like the representative little guy in the NFL, and he was boom or bust. And now it's just kind of shifted away from that somewhat.
Yeah. I feel like another thing is that the NFL has shifted to, if you're fast and athleticism, I think is a big thing. If you're usable in multiple different positions, because I think for me, Michael Vick was the big one. Yeah, there was Randall Cunningham, but Michael Vick was the big one when he broke the world by bringing Madden to real life. And now we've got Lamar Jackson. You've got people like Russell Wilson, like you've been saying. It's just, if you're a dual threat quarterback, that almost instantly makes you, okay, you're going to be first round. You're going to be you're going to be a main factor in our offense. Pocket presence passers aren't nearly as respected, I'll say, as they used to be. So I think with height, you're quicker, you're shorter. I mean, yeah, we had the incredible years that were Doug Flutie, but after that, it's just whoever's small and athletic and can juke someone out on Madden. That's how it works. The RAG Evolution, thank you for coming back. He says he messed up not playing Jonathan Williams. I don't think any of us did either. And now he has to decide between Bo Scarborough, Deebo Samuel, and Scary Terry for his flex. What do you guys think?
It's hard for me to trust Terry even in a bad matchup. I think he could have a good game. I think Deebo, you have to kind of wait and see
if he's injured. I think
if he's playing, who else is playing? Is Emmanuel Sanders playing? Is George Kittle playing? It looks like Kittle's probably going to play this week. So, gosh, that's a tough one because there's just question marks on all three of them.
Bo Scarborough, I think, is safest.
Is he though?
Yeah.
I mean, the Lions, you don't know really what they're going to do at running back from week to week.
It's true.
Well, Jude Buddha, what do you think?
Bo Scarborough is the safest.
Said with the least amount of confidence ever.
I think if it were me, I would play McLaurin, just hoping for the upside. Scoring McLaurin. I think they're getting right. As far as this, I mean, as far as like getting him into spots where his quarterback can hit him. He dropped a touchdown last week. It would have been a huge, we wouldn't be even worried about him, I feel like.
I'd still be worried.
Yeah, well, I guess we'd still be worried about him, but I mean, like in this group of people.
Well, but Debo's had 2 huge games, lots of targets. Now, granted, it's been, with George Kittle out and Emmanuel Sanders out part of the time.
I think Emmanuel Sanders is going to be iffy. I think Debo is going to play. Yeah, I think you're right. Debo might be the better play here.
He's good to go, is what they're saying so far.
Okay.
Debo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Debo's the play.
Yeah, that's who I'd lean to. I mean, there's definitely a path. I mean, if Terry McLaurin catches a long touchdown or something, but I think he had 4 targets against last week against the Jets. Yeah. So it's tough. I mean, I think most people may have probably seen by now, like that viral clip of Haskins like pleading with his offensive line, which is just like the most cringy clip, sad clip all the way around. So I dropped Terry in a league where there were just too many good receiver options. I just couldn't keep him. And my reasoning was like, well, Haskins is the quarterback the rest of the season. So I don't really trust that.
Yeah, honestly, this wasn't that hard for me. Debo Samuel, I think he's going to play. I think even if Kittle and Sanders are supposed to play, Sanders, I don't think he's going to be 100%, even if he does play. McLaurin hasn't done anything since week 6. That's my thing with him. He hasn't scored over 20, let alone 10 points since then. And I don't even know what the Lions are going to do at running back. I don't know what they're going to do. They burned us all with Ty Johnson. J.D. McKissick started doing something. And I love Bo Scarborough. I thought he did great at Alabama, but I don't know if I trust him with the Lions. Plus with San Francisco, the Packers defense doesn't scare me. Even though they're worse against the run, they are against the pass. They don't scare me. They don't scare me at all. I think Debo Samuel's the best bet, easily for me.
Who do you think wins that game?
I
think that's going to be a pretty good game.
Yeah, it should be.
I think it will be, but I think if San Francisco hadn't suddenly become worse, against the run, I would say San Francisco. But man, they're
so banged up.
They're banged up, and they nearly lost. I mean, or it was close with Arizona. You know, so that is a tough one. I really don't know who's going to win that game because I think it could go. I think it could go either way.
Yeah. It could be tough because, I mean, even we're talking about the 49ers getting worse. Packers almost lost to Matt Moore. They lost to the Chargers and put up less points than the Bears did. And then, they beat the Panthers by a touchdown, but that came down to a goal line play at the end of the game. The 49ers are the best offense they've faced in a while. And I think it could be a game where the 49ers are like, look, we're at home. Our last 3 games have been down. Let's show up. We need to beat the Packers and prove we're the best team in the NFC right now. That could be the game for them.
I think it's that game for both of them. Whoever wins this
San Francisco's is at home. That's the big thing. If this was in Lambeau, the Packers, I think, would have a big advantage there, but it's not. It's in San Francisco.
Here's the thing: is I think if the Packers win this game, and Aaron Rodgers puts on a show, not only do I think they're gonna easily go, I think will be
run the table. They'll win.
I think they could run the table, and I think he could become a major, if not the MVP candidate.
That'd be tough though, because you still got to move through the McCaffreys and Lamars.
McCaffrey's not going to be it.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if we're talking about people, he's going to have to beat. He's going to have to beat out McCaffrey. He's going to have to beat out Wilson. He's
already beating out
Lamar Jackson.
He's in the top 5 right now. He's in the top 5.
I don't think he's beating out Lamar. Unless the Ravens crash and burn for the last few games, Lamar Jackson's, I think, has got it locked up.
I think we're getting to the point where you've got so many teams that are running the table that it's going to be impossible because they're going to a couple of them are going to play each other. Somewhere down the stretch here.
I'm not saying they're going to run the table.
We've gotten to like the Chargers were going to run the table. I think the Browns were going to run the table.
No,
I've lost track of the number of teams that are running the table here at this point.
Oh boy,
that table needs it's gonna wait.
They're gonna have to. That table is gonna have to be like the Last Supper table where it's just this like long. There's like a dozen plus teams there at it.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like a season of Survivor, and eventually the groups are gonna have to fight each other to see who's gonna be the one to truly make it to the playoffs.
Right. They've all like these teams are like the Packers are like they found like a hidden immunity idol buried somewhere in Lambeau Field that prevents them from taking any losses for the rest of the season.
I just think it is interesting though, like the amount of parity in the league right now. Like it's anybody's game.
Yeah,
and that's what I want to see. Like the NBA is interesting this year for the first time in forever because you don't have like a big three on a team.
You don't have a super team.
Or
four in Warriors case.
The Warriors are like at -2 now or something. I mean, they're terrible. Like literally everyone. Kevin Durant left. Steph Curry's out for the year. Klay
What
Thompson,
happened to Curry?
He broke his hand.
Yeah,
he's out for the year. Klay Thompson's out for the year. So they basically have Draymond Green and I guess
Sean Livingston.
Yeah, and so the NBA is interesting for the first time in a long time because of parity, and I think the NFL is more interesting this year. Because the Patriots, look. They look beatable. We'll see. The tough thing is going to be they're going to have home field advantage probably, and the Ravens will have to go in there or Chiefs or whoever. But and the NFC, like San Francisco looks good, Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans, Dallas. So
Vikings, they've been hot for the last few games. Yeah, they had a rough spot, but who knows what they could do?
Yeah, I just find it much more interesting. Unless my team is a super team, but I find it much more interesting when there's a lot of parity in leagues.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was talking to a couple people, and I was like, what's really sad? The NFL is fun this year, and I'm having more fun watching other teams' games than watching Bears games. It is so sad. It's depressing. Josiah Riggins, welcome to the show. You got any fantasy questions for us? We are here. I take it you're also an NF fan.
Is NF the rapper?
Yes. I had a friend who for a couple years just would not stop asking me if I knew who he was, and was his name Josiah Reagan? I don't know. It was crazy. RAG Evolution. He's got another question for us. Should he drop Watson for Foles this week? Whoa,
Deshaun Watson. What? Who are we talking about here?
Well, Deshaun's had a terrible string of games. The last 3 games he's been like 20 points at best. But I would not drop him.
I guess he was on your bench because if he's already played, and so if he's in your lineup, obviously you couldn't drop him. So I guess he's on your bench. So I don't know who's your starting quarterback. I would keep Watson for if nothing else. I mean, I guess it depends on if you're. Well, never mind. It doesn't depend. You need to keep Deshaun Watson. He's got a great playoff schedule. I wouldn't want to play him. The next couple of weeks are tough. He's got tough matchups. New England. I wouldn't start him probably either of the next 2 weeks. But if you've got the luxury of being able to pick up Foles, if you got the luxury, if you're either locked into the playoffs or if you've got another roster spot, I don't know who your other quarterback is, because obviously, like I said, he would have had to have been on your bench just to be able to drop him. But I think Foles has a good schedule. It's great. It's not as crazy as I like when the question first hit me because of Deshaun's schedule. But in the playoffs, Tennessee and Tampa, you've got to start him against those teams.
And I think you overrate defenses. Like I think Deshaun Watson's going to destroy the Patriots. He's going to have a big game. Like running quarterbacks are their Achilles heel.
But he's not. I mean, he can run, but he's not Lamar Jackson, where that's going to be one of his first, choices. I mean,
no, but I think he's the prototype to it's going to be interesting to see what happens this week. Like one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about.
Oh wait, hold up. He meant Winston.
Oh, okay.
He meant Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
I would still not drop Winston. I'd play Winston this week,
Really?
especially over Foles. Winston historically has had huge games against Atlanta.
But Atlanta's defense is beefing up, though.
Yeah.
They've been much better recently.
Yeah, but man, he's somebody who can throw 4 touchdowns and still get you plenty of fantasy points.
But he's also the guy.
I mean,
four
4
interceptions.
interceptions, and still get you plenty of fantasy points.
No, plenty. We're talking about 12, 13.
No, he threw 5 and got you 17 fantasy points.
That's
5
fine.
interceptions.
That's fine. I don't want to have to watch a Bucks game and see him barely squeak to 17 after throwing 5 picks.
Don't watch it then. Look, he is. I think he's going to smash this week. Whether he has, he'll probably have like 3 or 4 interceptions. Hopefully, he has 2, and he's going to have a ton of touchdowns.
Jared, what do you think?
I think it's pretty risky. I think he actually probably does have the higher ceiling than Foles, because for some of the stuff that Judah mentioned, but at the same time, like we're also getting to that. Okay, number one, like AJ mentioned, like Atlanta's defense has suddenly like come around the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
So you've got that issue. The other issue is we're kind of like getting to that time of season where like just coming off a 4 interception game where, maybe he starts out with another 3 interceptions in the first half. They get down a lot and then he gets benched, at least for this game, as some kind of punishment. Now that's really kind of like, starting to, theorize about what could happen. But again, that seems to happen every year at some point, where he gets benched, and his last, let's see, 5 games, his interception total has gone 5-2-0-2-4. He's thrown 13 interceptions in his last 5 games. So I think it depends on your risk tolerance, because even with, like Judah said, even with the interceptions, he's been consistently putting up roughly, 20 points a game. Yeah. But it's risky. If you want to go for security, I would say Foles. If you're, aiming for maybe, a 25-point game or something, I think, Jameis probably has the better shot at that.
Yeah. I think another thing is if you're in one of those positions where, Yahoo's projections are crazy, but if you're projected to win by a decent amount, Foles might be not too bad because, you'll get that safe 18 floor. But if you need to be coming from behind and you need Winston to throw a couple touchdowns for you, he's going to be the guy, especially because, Ronald Jones, he's been doing great. And then that just gets into the question of, is he going to continue it? I think he'll do fine. But here's the thing that was ticker for me. Winston, his backup's Ryan Griffin.
That's what I was going to say, too.
I had to go look up while you were talking out of Tulane.
Because when Winston's backup was Fitzpatrick, that was, I think that was the difference there. Mm-hmm. Like they could rely on Fitzpatrick to get them
until he met the Bears
a decent game.
Sort of.
He won them their first 4 games of the season, with 4 touchdowns a game.
And then 10. Like you can't ever rely on either. Like rely is the wrong word to use with Ryan Fitzpatrick or Jameis Winston both. You can never rely on them. You can gamble on them and you may win. But you can't rely on them. Yeah, and again, like it's not like I'm not saying like they would put Ryan Griffin in as like, oh yeah, he's going to be better. He's the better alternative that helps us win this game. But they might do it as as like it's time to punish Jameis for all these reckless throws.
Well, the other thing is I think that Tampa Bay has a history of doing that, but looking at Arians, he doesn't do that. He sticks with his quarterback.
That is true. Different coach.
Like through thick and thin. You remember when who was that old man he used
Carson
to have?
Palmer.
Carson Palmer, man.
Yeah.
He stuck with him to the bitter end.
Well, he was okay. Well, Carson Palmer was much more consistent than Jameis Winston.
Not at the end there, man. He was terrible.
50-year-old Carson Palmer who gets injured every 3 games before Kevin Cobb comes in. Yes. Sure, but
Kevin
regular
Cobb. I haven't thought about that. That name just gives me like shudders, of like having to like late in the season and you're desperate at quarterback and like, oh, who's available? Kevin Cobb.
Oh man, wasn't it like it was like that season? It was like Kevin Cobb, then he got hurt, so they had to bring in like Cody Kessler or something.
Yeah, Cody Kessler.
I think they got down to like their 4th string quarterback at one point because it was like Carson Palmer, Drew Stanton, Kevin Cobb, and then it like all 3 got injured and it was down to like their 4th or 5th string quarterback.
Yeah,
it was great.
I think that was Cody.
Oh my goodness. See, what they needed to do is pull a Chicago Cubs and just let your skill player play quarterback for like a full quarter and just see what happens. They should have just let David Johnson come in and run the Wildcat the entire quarter and just see what would happen.
I think it would have been hilarious. Well, like last week, Julian Edelman had the lone touchdown in that game. I think it would have been great if like Chicago had traded for Edelman at the deadline but traded for him to play quarterback. Like that would have just been the ultimate.
I thought that's what the Patriots were doing with Sanu.
Oh no.
I mean, he can throw farther than 70% NFL quarterback, so it might happen someday.
I wouldn't be surprised if during the playoffs they have a bunch of like these trick plays with Sanu and with Edelman. Man, they got 3.
They line up. They line up 3 quarterbacks in the backfield. Yeah, I think they will. Like, I don't think they'll show any of this. In the regular season, they'll wait until the playoffs. And they'll have some like Belichick will turn into like Matt Nagy from last season where he's got all this trickery that he pulls on teams. I think you're right. I think that will happen.
And we'll just see while the defense is out there. We'll see Edelman, Sanu, and Brady just playing rock, paper, scissors, seeing who's going to take the next drive. And that's how it's going to work. Oh my goodness. It should be interesting. 7-10 does say Winston's consistent. He throws a lot, rushes a little bit, and throws a lot of picks. Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
I mean, if you had started with him as your quarterback instead of, let's say, somebody who started with Mayfield, like you probably are in the playoffs. True.
It's just like he's like, but it's kind of like the whole thing with, with Kyle, not exactly Kyle Allen, but like, I mean, he can have. A game that's
I'm never gonna live that down, huh?
So bad. Well, no, I don't even mean you. Like, there were a lot of analysts that were like, "Oh yeah, Kyle Allen this week." But like Jameis, I remember last year. I was looking back to see like there was a game in Cincinnati where he threw for 276 yards, 1 touchdown, and 4 interceptions. So those 4 interceptions negated his 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
And so, ultimately he ended up with like, 10 points or something. I think probably even, let's see. Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, he is like, as long as he doesn't get benched, you should be fine. And so maybe that's the thing to hang it on is like, it's Ryan Griffin is the backup and Arians tends to just roll with the quarterback. So maybe he's safe enough, but Atlanta's played a lot better the last 2 weeks and it's in Atlanta. So that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah. Especially Foles week 16. He's got Atlanta too. That's the funny thing. They both have Atlanta on their schedules.
Well, that's the other thing about Winston though. His playoff schedules. I think Jared.
Yeah, so is Foles. So is Foles. They both have good schedules down the stretch.
Although Houston's defense, so week 16 is, like we said before, is Houston at Tampa, which you would think would be, good for both those quarterbacks. But, Tennessee's defense has gotten better against, at least, especially against the pass. Like that game right before the bye, they had, they basically cost Gardner Minshew his job.
Yeah.
And then this week, Brissett was terrible against him. So Jonathan Williams ran over him. But but Jameis does have a good playoff schedule in Detroit, and then theoretically home against Houston should be good.
Yeah.
Is Detroit going to shut down Stafford?
I don't know. Okay. So here's the thing. I don't think they shut him down unless he's just not coming back, unless he's not medically cleared until like the final game of the season. If he's not medically cleared, I think for the final game of the season, they would be like, look, dude, we know you want to play, but no,
Yeah.
But really it's all on like when his back has healed and he will want to play. And so if there's 3 games left, I think he definitely, like if he's medically cleared and there's 3 games left, I think he definitely comes back.
I mean, unless Driscoll, like what if Driscoll just goes off this week? Or I mean, it could go either way. What if he gets pounded? Like I think if he gets like just eviscerated this week, I think you could see Stafford come back next week or whenever he gets healthy, like you said.
It's Washington. I don't think Driscoll will get eviscerated.
Yeah, he's not getting smacked.
I mean, he played pretty well against the Cowboys.
I'm playing him in several leagues, and guys, this is not an advertisement, but you guys gotta play the draft app, man. The draft app is like I'm addicted to it right now. Because I went on it and realized I had $37 on it because I had won a bunch of like last year. So you draft. It's got really fun things where you can draft. Just for this week. You can do what they call a blind auction draft, where somebody comes up and you got 30 seconds to put how much you think he's worth to you, and if you win, you get him. It's really fun little, and it's like you can play for $1. So
interesting. That does sound fun.
That's all.
Is that all?
Just leave the camera on him.
I'm blushing. Come on, get it off of me. What are you doing?
Fine. Matthew Stafford, though, it should be interesting to see whether he finishes. I hope he doesn't finish because I don't want him to get injured. I hope because I like him out of Georgia. I hope he's going to be all right. I mean, this dude is a tank, though. You can fracture his back and he still wants to play.
Yeah, but what you saw last year is he came back in the game and just wasn't the same for the second half of the season.
That's why I don't want him to play. I don't want him to play.
Yeah.
Because if something worse happens, especially in those few games, if he aggravates it again, that doesn't bode well. So I don't want him to play, and I don't think he's going to play.
Like at all the rest of the season?
If I'm Matt Patricia, I'm thinking, look, our season's done. We are out of the playoffs. We're not risking Stafford getting hurt. Like if I was Matt Patricia, I wouldn't start him because I don't want to risk it. I know he's like past 40,000 yards and all, but I don't want to risk him getting injured again or risk something else happening because he's had a decent injury history in Detroit because his offensive lines have never been great. So it just worries me. So I would just keep him and give him the extra few weeks of rest. Honestly.
And Driscoll's doing good. I just wonder, what does this mean fantasy-wise? What does this mean for Galladay? I have like Galladay in over half my leagues. And lately, he's like last week, I was so glad to see him get that long catch. But that's all he had the whole game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worries me for Galladay. They got Tampa in week 15 in the playoffs, so he might be able to do well regardless. But that's really like what I'd like to see Stafford back for is if and I don't know, because it's supposed to be like a roughly 6-week-ish injury, and that would take him through that week 15 game. And so that's why I'm not really sure. Like I really do think like as much as he'll want to play, like if they say, okay, you're good, you're healed, there's no, additional risk of extra risk of re-injury now than there will be next year. I think he plays those last 3 games. I think if it's one game, he doesn't. Where I'm kind of on the fence is if like, okay, he gets cleared after week 15, there's 2 games left. Does he come back or not? So that's kind of that's my thought of like probably what happens. But
Thomas H., welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. Pick my flex. That's going to have to be our new segment.
I
Pick
was wondering.
my flex.
Okay.
Le'Veon Bell, Mark Ingram, or Tyler Lockett and Jared. The league is half-point PPR.
Ah, there you go. Yeah. See, more people need to do this. More people need to throw that out there. I'll let Judah go first on this one.
Half-point PPR, I got to go with Le'Veon Bell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Lockett's fully healthy, if he's going to be a decoy out there. Mark Ingram is very enticing to me. I feel like he has gotten over he had a little bit of negative regression coming to him for touchdowns, and he kind of got over that. And now, I don't know, he just has a nose. I've always been a Mark Ingram fan. He just has a nose for the end zone. End zone. That's the word I'm looking for. But Le'Veon's going to get a lot of passes. Yeah. If he's healthy, he's going to get a lot of yards.
Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I think Le'Veon. I think he's got, last 3 weeks, and this is why I tried to trade for him everywhere. Like everywhere that I needed someone to give me a final push to the playoffs.
Yeah,
his playoff schedule is not great, but everywhere that I needed to push to the playoffs, I tried to get him because his schedule is just a cakewalk. In the last 3 weeks, he's basically averaged like 15, 16 points. It was like 16, 14, 16 or something like that. And, Oakland's not an intimidating defense anywhere. So I think it's probably another, 15, 16 point game. Philadelphia has gotten better the last couple of weeks or so.
Better with a question mark.
Yeah, seemingly, against the pass. So, and Russell Wilson just doesn't play quite as well on the road. So Lockett could still have a good game. Yeah. But I don't feel, as good about that as I would have a couple weeks ago. And then, Ingram, you don't know. There's like Ingram has just kind of like almost every scenario imaginable with Ingram, because he can give you a 25-point game, he can give you a 15-point game, or he can
game.
kind of get limited to like 8 or 9 points. So so I think Lockett's the safe one.
I wonder if they're saving Ingram for like the playoffs, because he's been playing only 50% of the snaps, sharing with Gus Bus and even what's his name, Justin Hill or something.
Justice Hill. Yeah, I mean potentially. Yeah.
I don't know how much I actually trust Philadelphia's pass defense, because the teams that they've played against recently, like they did shut down Brady and the Patriots. I will give them that all day. They shut him down. But I mean, against the Bears, they don't have a pass offense. Against the Bills, that was the game where it was like 70-mile-an-hour winds, if I remember correctly. And then the Cowboys, Zeke Elliott just ran all over them that game. He got over 100 yards, and Pollard also got a touchdown that game. So I don't know what it is with him, because then the week before, you got Diggs scoring 3 touchdowns. So Lockett, I think, and this is the Seahawks we're talking about. So if anyone's going to bust Philadelphia open, it's going to be Russell Wilson. I think Le'Veon's the safest bet here, because he's just so consistent against bad defenses with 15 points. It's crazy. Lockett could blow up, or Ingram could blow up, but Le'Veon's safest. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, Wilson, oddly enough, like he had a big game, his first road game. He had 300 yards and 3 touchdowns against Pittsburgh. And since then, in one out of 4 games, he's topped 241 yeah. Wow. So he's just not quite as much of a, like on the road, it's a little bit tougher for him. So
yeah. So I think that is, my goodness, we've actually gotten through all the questions today.
Noise.
I can't believe that. Okay, so now that we're not backed up with questions, I guess, Jude Buddha, I know you were talking to me earlier. Which segment do you want to go to? Do you want to go to Stardom Sit 'em, or you want to go to League Winners?
No, let's just do League Winners. Stardom Sit 'ems at this point, I think League Winners is sort of what the Stardom Sit 'em becomes, because whoever's on your bench, whoever is starting for you has,
Pretty much locked in.
Yeah, you've kind of solidified your team at this point, and you can't trade.
Yeah.
So to me, at this point of the season, I'm looking at the waiver wire and looking at who could potentially be a league winner. And I don't know about you guys, but I exclude all the obvious handcuffs.
Christian McCaffrey's. Oh, okay.
No, the handcuffs. So like Bonifant for Christian McCaffrey,
Madison for
Madison. Yeah, all those guys. I think those are sort of given. Like you want to have one of those guys, whoever you think is going to be, the biggest benefactor. But so going just looking at like how the teams, the actual NFL teams, are sort of switching it up, and who has the fresh legs, who could you get off the waiver wire potentially that could change your league, it could change the trajectory. Like say you're in like a lot of, I've heard a lot of chatter about teams having a lot of parity, and I think it's because of the league, NFL having so much parity in itself. Like I have so many leagues that everybody is 6-5, 5-6.
Yeah,
and you, with one good player, you could get into the playoffs. Several of my leagues, the top 6 teams get in, and so it's easier. If you're 10th to in these next 2 games to get up there, or actually be next.
Yeah.
Next 2 games, yeah.
Going to have to put that segment on hold because we have 2 questions in the comments. Thomas H, beautiful timing. He says another league with 1 point PPR. That's for you, Jared. Running back options: Derrick Henry, Jalen Samuels. I think that's Jalen Samuels. Yeah. Kareem Hunt, Phillip Lindsay, and Devin Singletary. That's a lot of good matchups this week.
That is Judah.
Definitely not. As much as Derrick Henry is the best running back in the world, I wouldn't start him.
My goodness.
You said, who is that? Jalen Samuels?
Jalen Samuels, I think. Yeah.
I think Jalen Samuels is going to go off this week.
Wait. So you would not start Henry this week?
No.
Against Jacksonville?
No.
The 9th worst run defense?
See, that's like, it's sort of counter to conventional thought. I'm not even arguing that much for this. I'm just going to say it's kind of because I think some people overvalue Henry for this game because it was that Jacksonville game last year where he just destroyed them.
Yeah.
And I think that was the one that kind of started his little run of so I'm not really arguing necessarily on this, but I'm saying like most people are like, oh, Derrick Henry's like top 10 play easily, and they're thinking back to that game.
No, I don't think so. But I just think Samuel's going to get a ton of catches. I think he's going to be used as a slot receiver in this game, with Snell being in at the same time as him, or even who's that guy you brought up? I think that was interesting, Jared. Who's that third running back there?
For what were we talking about?
For the Steelers, the third running back behind Snell.
Actually, Snell I think is healthy. So
he's healthy. Okay,
I think he's going to play.
But I think you could see all 3. Who's the other guy?
Karras White.
Tremaine Edmonds.
Edmund. Yeah. I think you can see all 3 of them in the lineup on different snaps because they're so bereft at receiver. I think they're going to play Samuel. You remember he in college he was an H-back and played as more of a tight end. He could see a lot of receptions. Same with Hunt. Hunt is going to get. I mean, this is 1 point per reception. So I see Hunt and Samuel as the premium benefactors here of receptions.
Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean the fact that it's 1 point PPR makes a big difference. I think people are, I think Derrick Henry maybe in for not necessarily a letdown game. I mean, I think you may still have a solid total, but I'm not sure it's going to be what you really need in PPR because a lot of people are sort of overvaluing him based on that game last year. When they played Jacksonville earlier this year, he had like 44 yards and a touchdown. Jacksonville actually did a pretty good job on him, probably because that game from last year was fresh in their memories. But I think he should still have a pretty good game. But I don't know that it's just going to be over the moon and he doesn't catch that many balls. This is kind of tough because all of these guys, all the other guys besides Henry are basically in the same boat. Yeah. They're sort of in a running.
Maybe not Lindsey. Maybe not so much Lindsey, but
well, I mean, even with Lindsey, Royce Freeman gets a good number of carries, and Lindsey is he's competing with Curtis Samuel, considering that Jalen Samuels. Yeah. Considering that Jalen Samuel's quarterback is Mason Rudolph, but the quarterback is kind of situation's kind of shaky for Denver. They've got a young guy in there. I think isn't that game at Buffalo? And so just a lot of stuff there. They are just kind of all in the same boat to me.
Thing is about Singletary is that when Joe Flacco was in there, no, not Singletary, Lindsey. Yeah, when Joe Flacco was in there, he targeted his running backs like I think 50% of his targets went to his running backs, whereas the new guy targets them like 15 to 20% or something like that. The percentage went way down. The running backs aren't getting targeted half as much.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough not to go. It's tough not to go with, I guess, Samuels because the matchup's just so good. Even if he's got a share with Benny Snell, that's pretty good. But I also like Hunt too. This really is, again, going back to my like RPG comparison where you're like, you have this strength here. Yep. So Lindsey and Singletary, like Henry is clearly the best, the most used back, but
he's the best back in the NFL.
The best back in the NFL, right? But it's 1 point PPR, so that's not his specialty. Yeah. Lindsey and Singletary get more of the load, but Singletary, he still has to share with Frank Gore. Yeah. Lindsey's in a tough situation there with that quarterback. I think because of all the balls that Samuel and Hunt are going to catch, like I would maybe be inclined to go with them. I think we can look and see like what they've caught the last few games, but man, they've been getting a lot of targets.
Who?
Samuels and Hunt.
Yeah. I mean, Samuels had that one night where he got like 15 targets.
Yeah. Hunt has had 8+ in 2 straight games in the 2 games he's played.
He's being treated like a wide receiver as well.
Yeah.
He's been playing in the slot.
Yeah. And again, like I just think with this, this game and Samuels, he had 13 against Indianapolis, 7 against, and he caught all 13 of them, which is crazy. But I think with this game against Miami, this is just could be one where Cleveland just wants to run up the score. They're like a high school team or a college team, like
they're trying to make the playoffs.
Yeah, right. And or just like a college team that like they've paid this like lowly
Georgia Tech Cumberland
team to come in just so they can give their home fans a good thrill to just bash them. So Samuels, I guess Samuels and then Hunt for me.
Yeah,
but that's tough. I think they're all pretty good options this week.
I think Samuels is probably number 1 for me, and then after that probably Derrick Henry, because Henry, well, I traded for him, so I kind of need him to do something. But Jalen Samuels number 1. He's just got a great matchup. Derrick Henry number 2 because he's been super consistent and he's got a good matchup. And Hunt number 3, partially because Nick Chubb is still there. Deion Lewis isn't going to do anything in Tennessee. Samuels, he's pretty much got it down in Pittsburgh. And yes, Hunt is the pass catching back. He's going to do that. But what happens if Nick Chubb blows the game open early? What if he gets a big touchdown early and they stick with the ground game for most of the game? Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think I think Hunt's going to do good. I think Hunt's going to be a good flex spot. I think everyone on Cleveland pretty much is going to get 10 points this week because they're playing Miami, unless they pull off another Miami miracle. But Henry's just too consistent for me to drop him any lower for me. So I go Samuels, Henry, and then Hunt is your flex. And I like Lindsey. I like him a lot as a player, but he's splitting time with Royce Freeman, and Singletary hasn't done nearly as much in the last few weeks, and he's got the toughest matchup.
I think Lindsey's – what did you say?
I go Samuels, Henry, Hunt.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, I think Lindsey's hurt too. He's banged up.
I think a little. I agree with what you're saying with not dropping Henry lower than that. I think, though, one thing I would say with Hunt is I think almost if the Browns blow the game open, that could lend itself more to him getting more carries because, like, when they played the Steelers, like those last couple series, like Hunt had come in. They might want to have an opportunity to kind of showcase him either just to get him like back in the flow of having a workload, to save Chubb and kind of, or just to like showcase him as trade bait or something, like in the off season. So I think they might be looking for an opportunity if they get it to, give, have a blowout game where they give Hunt like a lot of carries in the second half or something.
Yeah. 710, thanks for your patience. He asks, so hopefully Thomas Aitken answers your question. 710 asks, is Lat Murray, Adrian Peterson worth a – man, you're getting all my favorite guys in here. Lat Murray or Adrian Peterson worth a look at flex with the favorable matchups? But he also has, out of Boise State, Jay Ajayi, who said they'll get involved against Seattle. And Jared, this is PPR.
No, I'll pass on those guys.
Adrian Peterson has a toe. He might get shut down for the season.
And I mean, Murray's got the Panthers, but Kamara's back. I'll have to look and see like how much volume Murray got last week, but I don't think it was all that much. He got
a lot of snaps. I don't know about.
Well, he had 10 carries.
Yeah, 10 carries. That's pretty good.
Let's see if he caught. I guess he caught a couple of. Balls because he had more.
I don't think so. He's not really a pass catching back.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
he can, but I'm saying in the Saints when you have Alvin Kamara,
he had 2 catches, 3 targets, but only 5 yards. So I don't like him. He's going to be touchdown dependent for you. So he might get you a touchdown and get up to 11 points or something. But if he doesn't, he's going to give you 4 or 5 probably. So, I think you can find a better option than any of those guys. Ajayi. He's just a run guy, and Seattle's better against the straight run, I think. Yeah. So what were you going to say, Judah?
I think you might want to see if Jordan, what's his name?
Howard is going to play.
Yeah, if Jordan Howard's going to play. If Jordan Howard plays, like, forget Jay Ajayi. But if he doesn't, like, I think Jay Ajayi could be instrumental in this game.
Jordan Howard's currently just listed as questionable. It's a 50-50. It's 50-50 game time decision pretty much so far.
I don't think he practiced all week, did he? Or did he get
Nope. Okay. He still hadn't been cleared for contact all week.
I don't think he plays.
Yeah, I would doubt that he does. But
I think Jay Ajayi could be an interesting. I picked him up a couple places. I'm curious to see how he does.
Ironically, he might be the best decision out of these 3 if you're going for flex play. If this is like a deep 14-16, that ironically he could be best.
Yeah, unless it's a deep league though, I think there's probably a better choice out there. But
so I think Adrian Peterson. I don't trust the Redskins, so that's it for me. Latavius got 10 carries, but Kamara's the feature back. As much as I love Latavius Murray, he kind of burned me earlier in the year when Kamara just had the workload, and then Ajayi, I just don't know. So, Adrian Peterson, they're worth like a glance, but I don't know if I'm taking a second glance unless I've got all Minnesota Vikings on my bench. Unless all I have is like Dalvin Cook on Diggs, Adam Thielen's on IR, and I've got Madison. Then I'll start one of them. But if I've got someone else, I'd start any of them otherwise. Okay, so Jude Buddha, how about you start us off with your league winners?
I think that I think that follows that question. I mean, I can follow that question well in the sense that my number one league winner, I think, is Darius Geis. I think if you get Darius Geis, if you find him on the waiver wire, I think he could be a league winner for you. I mean, with all these guys, you don't know what's going to happen, but I foresee a situation where they shut down Adrian Peterson. Darius Geis becomes the main 3-down back, and they really see what he can do. They continue to run out the clock on the season using their running backs, and Darius Geis will be the biggest. I've said benefactors too many times today. Biggest. He's going to have the biggest load.
Jared, what do you think about that?
Yeah, potentially. I think if you can get to your championship game, maybe he's got the Giants. Tough thing there though is week 15. They've got the Eagles, which is a tough run defense, and it's also Washington. I mean, I can get on board with that if we're talking like, guys that are more likely to be on your waiver wire. He's not on any of mine, but I looked and he's only like 54% owned overall. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I can get on board with that.
I think I would be more on board with it, like Jared said, if it wasn't Washington, because he's got a great 3-game stretch. He's got Detroit, terrible. Carolina, bad. Packers, extremely horrible. That's a really nice.
Extremely horrible.
They are like fourth worst against the run in fantasy. Fourth worst. And I would like, man, this is absolutely incredible. I'll roll with this, but it's the Redskins. These guys had a great game last week. If he has one more, then I'm like, okay, yeah, this could be good. He could be a league winner. Sure. Or the Redskins could crash and burn for the rest of the year. It's a risk, yeah.
No, but see, here's the thing: is the Redskins are going to crash and burn the rest of the year. That's not something. But on crash and burning, as we've seen with the Dolphins and the if the Dolphins had somebody, I mean, they're even doing semi well with
Fitzmagic and Devontae Parker.
No, they're running backs. So I'm talking about specifically running backs. In teams that are tanking, running backs are an important piece of that because they have to run down the clock on the season. And in order to do that, just run the ball. Why get your wide receivers or your quarterback so involved? Like just run out the clock on the season.
Jared, you got a league winner for us?
I'm gonna go with 2 wide receivers here. We talked about one earlier, and we just mentioned one of them. But they're one of them. Okay, so it's Will Fuller and Devontae Parker. Parker's a little bit more owned. He's 73% owned, but I mean, he's available in more than a quarter of leagues, so there's a chance he's out there. And Will Fuller is actually only 63% owned.
Wow.
And he's available in 6 of mine. So the thing with Will Fuller is pretty straightforward. It's he closes the fantasy season with Tennessee and Tampa. And Tampa is just the ultimate dream matchup. It's why I predicted that Christian Kirk would have a career game. And he did, I think 130 something yards and 3 touchdowns. And I think if, Will Fuller can do the same thing against him. Parker, on the other hand, his schedule closes with the Jets, the Giants, and the Bengals. He's had 6 or more targets in all 5, each of the last 5 games, 10 targets in 3 of those 5 games. He's had double-digit points in 4 of the last 6 games, and even when he didn't, his lowest was 8.9 points. They don't have anyone else to throw to. Preston Williams is out for the year. Fitzpatrick will throw to the tight end a little bit. They don't have much of a running game. I think that's just like he's a guy that I could, feel pretty good about starting as a wide receiver too, with that stretch of Jets, Giants, Bengals. And the thing with Will Fuller is I think with those matchups, he's going to have a pretty solid floor. And we've seen that his ceiling is 46.7 points. So, so I think he's especially the kind of guy that you want to play. Like if you sneak in like as a lower seed and maybe you're up against a team that's got like a McCaffrey and a Dalvin Cook and a Mike Evans or something that they're going to put up points and you need to go for that home run play, then Will Fuller I think is going to be about as good as it gets with that.
Interesting. So Ray Gibson, thanks for tuning in. You guys got a tip for him to prepare for the fantasy playoffs?
I think my tip for you, if it looks like you're already going to the playoffs, is don't get cute. I don't know how many times like I've really screwed up my fantasy playoff potential by dinking around with my team too much, tinkering with the lineup, tinkering with the people I pick up.
I feel like we go through this every year. I feel like you say this every year.
Yeah, I do. Look at, and I'm talking to myself here because I don't listen to my advice. Look at, I remember, I don't know, some fantasy analyst I really respected at the time, and probably still do, but I can't remember who it is. Said
it was me.
Oh, he said, you haven't heard what he said yet. He said, dump all your good players. No, he said, dance with the one that took you. So,
no, I definitely don't agree with that.
Boy.
So like, don't get into this, like, and this is my advice too. Like, don't get too much into this, like playing matchups and that kind of thing. Be zen about your team and trust them to get you through.
Jared, what do you got?
I guess I'll just try to like sort of dovetail off of that a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough spot because you get like there's going to be. Like in one of my leagues, in my 250 league, I stashed Matthew Stafford thinking like, okay, we've got the Bucks in week 15. That's a great matchup. I'm going to play him. I'm going to play him over Dak because Dak's my quarterback in that league. Dak's got the Rams, and that's solid. The Rams have been better since they got Jalen Ramsey. But Stafford against Tampa, that's just too appealing. Well, now I don't know if Stafford's going to be back for that. And so then the question becomes like, that's a Dak's at home and he's played well, or do I go with him or do I roll with, somebody with a great matchup? But I think in that case, I will play Dak. He's done pretty well, especially at home. So I agree with what Jude is saying in terms of like, don't get too cute with it. But I think you really do have to like think about your matchups and stuff to a certain extent. And so like, I'm not playing Dak this week, at New England. If this was the fantasy playoffs if this was week 15, I wouldn't play him. Because I think that's just too bad of a matchup for me. So I guess that's what I can say to that point is, you have to kind of find a balance there, between slightly lesser players who have great matchups and your great players who maybe don't have good matchups. You kind of have to weigh it out and maybe not get too like you're not going to bench Christian McCaffrey no matter who he's playing. You're not going to bench Dalvin Cook no matter who he's playing. I think my other thing would just be like if you are locked in, then you really do have to kind of start. If you are locked into the playoffs, you can, and you don't really care what your matchup is, which team you're playing, then, you really can sort of start stashing players that looking toward weeks 15 and 16 in terms of like, maybe you drop a decent player that you don't think really those is going to start for you, and you drop him to make sure you've got your handcuff, your running back handcuff or something like that. Or, you drop a guy that, he could help you more this week, but there's a guy out there that's got a really good matchup in week 15 or 16 that's going to be able to help you. So I guess that's my advice.
Yeah, mine's going to be a little bit weird, but here we go. So first off, for the 50% of you out there that still own AJ Green, don't. Next up, I don't know why he's still 52% owned. Here's my next thing. This is going to sound weird. Check your defenses, check your kickers. I think that's the thing a lot of people look over. I cannot tell you how many times, at least in random leagues, where you'll just find top 3, top 5 kickers. You've been stupid consistent. I've had Gostkowski, I've had Hauschka, I've had Fairbairn, I've had Greg the Leg, and I picked them all up off of waivers. And check your defenses too, because getting the right defense, right kicker could mean the difference between them putting up a combined 8 points and them putting up a combined 25 points.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a game changer for the games that you lose by 4 points. You're like, oh, if only my wide receiver had gotten blah, 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 blah. No, you could have picked up a defense that had a great matchup that got 15 points. Check your defenses, check your kickers. That's what I got to say.
I think that's a great point. I've had actually, like, thinking back, and I do put a lot of priority on that, because I think, like, thinking back, there's just been a lot of years where, my defense has gotten 15 points, my kicker's gotten 15 points, and, combined for about 30 points, as opposed to maybe 12 if you get a kicker that puts up 6 and a defense that puts up 6. Yeah. And so I stashed, like, I've got the New England defense in, I think, six or 7 of my 17 leagues. Oof. And then I stashed the Pittsburgh defense in, I don't even know how many, because they play at home against Buffalo, and Josh Allen tends to be a little turnover prone. So, so I've stashed those, and then, like, the Ravens, like, anywhere I can find the Ravens. And so I'm just like stashing defenses, not only because I want to have those options, but to keep them away from somebody else. And that's another thing is, like, I'll find some guys that I'm like, oh man, I don't want somebody playing this guy against me. Like I can't even start him myself. Like, maybe my tight end's too good, or, my wide receiver's two's too good. But I don't want somebody streaming this guy against me in the playoffs. So you can play keep away a little bit like that too.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny about this conversation?
What?
It's ironic, I think, is I just went and picked up Greg the Leg, who Jared dropped. Yeah. I think, like, we flipped on Greg the Leg, where I think he's going to do better the rest of the year, whereas I thought he was going to do worse the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I finally just cast him off in favor of guys like Matt Gay, the Bucks kicker. I'm not sure who all else. Actually, a bunch of people have dropped, because he's on bye this week. A bunch of people have dropped Kansas City's kicker, Butker. So I've picked him up in several leagues. And the Chiefs play the Broncos in week 15. The Broncos kind of limit the pass a little bit. So I'm thinking, maybe that's going to be a game where they can get in field goal range a lot, but not punch it in. So maybe he can. So yeah, I don't know. I don't like dropping Zerline, but man, just the Rams offense has been so inconsistent that it's tough for me. It would be tough for me to trust them.
I just feel like, though, you got through all his hard games, and now they're getting everybody back. Like, I thought it was interesting that you dropped him. Like, I understand why you dropped him, but, like, I went back and looked. I'm like, man, he's had some terrible games. He's due for some really good games.
I mean, so one of the reasons, so rest of the season, the 2 regular season games doesn't matter for me, because I'm locked into the playoffs in our league. Yeah. Week 15 against the Cowboys, I think that one could go either way with him, but the fantasy championship is San Francisco. He had 1 point against San Francisco in that first meeting with the Rams. So just not for me. If he comes back and burns me, okay, but
And that's the scary thing, because kind of what Jude Buddha, what you just said. The funny thing is that you're like, oh, well, he's due for a big game. The kicker's big game is entirely dependent on how well the offense does. It's like you could miss kicks or whatever, but he doesn't miss kicks. It's completely dependent on whether your offense gets past the 40-yard line or not.
Yeah, but that's why I mentioned they're getting everybody back. They got Cooks back. They got they've got Woods back.
That doesn't mean the Rams offense is going to function.
Yeah, it does.
Look, this rests on Goff, on whether he's going to, if he goes back to last year's Jared Goff and is actually making accurate throws, then yeah, the Rams are back.
I don't think it has anything to do with Goff. I think it has everything to do with their offensive line and scheming, and they can't. Both of those are heavily affected by whether or not they can stretch the field.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but I mean, like, again, going back to that San Francisco game, Jared Goff had 78 passing yards. Brandon Cooks played in that game. Robert Woods played in that game. Everybody did. So, again, like when that's one of your two playoff matchups in standard leagues where you're only playing a semi and a championship, I just can't have. Yeah, it's tough to like roster a kicker who I know I'm not using in the fantasy championship.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. 710 says he picks his kicker in defense based on which games he gets on TV.
Okay, that is not a good strategy. Let's go ahead and throw that strategy out now. Like I know you want to watch your guys. Maybe I don't like to watch my guys. Actually, I like to. I like to just get away from it, and then I can take like part of the early games, and then I'm like I don't even want to see this. So it kind of depends on. It depends on the situation. Like sometimes I want to see them, like and I'm like rooting for them or rooting against guys, like a Sunday or Monday night game. Yeah, if somebody's playing for me or against them. But if sometimes it just like it's too like tense for me, and I'm like I can't. I've got to come back to this later, and I'm just gonna I'm just gonna have wishful thinking and good thoughts. That I'm gonna come back, and he's gonna have me in the lead.
Yeah, it's so funny. Last year I started the ritual of not looking at my fantasy score once like at 11:59. Once I'm set in, I don't touch it until Sunday night football's over.
Well, but that's dangerous though, because like, what if you've got games that are guys that are questionable for the 4:00 games, or like Robert Woods last week was a surprise inactive. So
for guys who are more dangerous, I'll check, but I typically don't want to roster guys who are super questionable. So for the most part, I try to keep you guys with starting lineups. Evan Ingram, who I know is actually going to play. But yeah, I just pretty much stopped doing that for players that are like locked in. For rosters I have locked in, I just don't look until Sunday night, because otherwise I know I'm going to be watching the game, be like, oh, Jalen Samuels got me 0.8. Okay, that's going to put me in disadvantage, and I can't watch football. I can't watch football if I do that.
Gotcha.
It's the only reason I ever started watching football, and it's the only reason I probably will continue to watch football. Fantasy football got me in. Fantasy football is going to keep me rolling. I'm addicted to Red Zone. Like if you watch Red Zone on Sunday, it's like it's amazing.
That's actually just probably
another touchdown. Another touchdown.
That's actually probably what I should watch.
Yeah. You want to know the funny thing? Back when I didn't have Red Zone, we didn't have cable. What I would do is I would pull up what basically is NFL Red Zone Lite, which is ESPN 3, and you get all the free Division II college games and just get to watch 4 at a time. And that would be my Saturday afternoon. I would just watch random stuff. I'd be like, ooh, field hockey, football, real hockey, soccer. And it'd just be, it'd be ESPN Lite. That was the fun part. Okay, so we are at an hour and 43 minutes.
We gotta get.
So, do you guys have any last things you want to finish, or if you've got more stuff you want to say? Are y'all pretty much good? Unless you got something else.
Yeah, none of my other guys that I had down as potential league winners or anything like earth shattering or anything like that. So
who'd you have? I'm curious.
Well, again, these guys, I don't know how much they even qualify because they're going to be rostered, but they may not be guys that you're necessarily starting that much. Is, you know, I think like a guy like Miles Sanders.
That was my other one.
Yeah. He's not, you're probably not going to find him, although I did pick him up off of a waiver wire or two. Actually,
you dropped him on the waiver wire.
I did drop him on a waiver wire, but I mean, that was a team that, like, you know, I just didn't, he was like my fourth or fifth running back. And, but I picked him up in another, and he's actually available on one of my others now. So, the thing I like about him is, you know, like Jordan Howard's health is sort of in question. People were like sort of on Sanders last week, like, oh, Howard's going to be out. But it's the Patriots, and the Patriots always try to shut down the run. So, so I wasn't that interested in him then. You know, Seattle this week is not, you know, really necessarily the best matchup. They're not that tough against the run, but then after that, you know, it's the Dolphins, it's the Giants, it's the Redskins, it's the Cowboys. So I think Sanders is a pretty good, you know, depending on the health of Jordan Howard. He could be a pretty good pickup. And then another one is Ronald Jones, who again, we're kind of once again down on Ronald Jones, I guess, a little bit after after a 2.4 performance last week against New Orleans.
Fine.
Of course you would say that.
He's probably fine. I don't know that the teams who started him last week in fantasy are as fine. But in the playoffs, he gets Detroit and Houston. So those are pretty good matchups. And one last guy, tight end has turned out to be has late as the season's gone on, we've ended up getting some more options at tight end, you know, because guys have gone down with injuries and other teams have started using their tight ends more. I think a guy that could end up sort of being a sneaky tight end play at the end of the season, he's only 33% owned, is David Njoku for the Browns. Game one, he came out in, you know, week one, he came out and had 4 receptions on 6 targets. He had 37 yards and a touchdown. And then he got hurt against the Jets, and he's been on IR since then. In week 15, who did the Browns get but just the ultimate fantasy tight end matchup of the Cardinals? So I think that's a pretty attractive situation if you don't have, you know, an elite tight end like a Kelsey or Kittle or someone like that.
Interesting. Jude Buddha, you got anyone you want to finish us off with?
Yeah, it was a quarterback.
Ooh.
And I think actually that Jimmy Polo is going to be a league winner.
Wow.
I think somebody picks up Jimmy and plays him the rest of the way. They're going to be happy. And he's on the waiver wire in most of my leagues. About half of my leagues. What is his percentage, ownership percentage?
Let's see. It is he's
83% owned.
Yeah, he's 83% owned.
Okay. So I guess after that big game, he went up there. So, but he may be on your waiver wire. I think if you have him on your bench, consider making him your primary quarterback.
Here's going to be my counterpoint to Jimmy, though.
Oh boy,
he's not playing the Cardinals again the rest of the year. So of his 11 games, he has hit 15 points or more 3 times.
Oof.
Two of those three have been against the Cardinals. The other one was against the Bengals
in week 2.
Pass box scores are no, you know, that's not a 1-to-1
stats apply.
That's not a 1-to-1 correlation with future success.
Okay.
I mean, you can look at box scores and say, yeah, you know, like I'm sure there's a correlation in there, but look.
Well, the correlation in there is mostly that he's just not. San Francisco Kyle Shanahan seems to prefer to run the ball and play defense, like when he's got that option. So the correlation in there is that like Jimmy's just not being asked to throw for, that many. So, I mean, he's had 4 games, I guess 35-40% of his time where it's been 166 yards, 181, 151, 175. They're almost sort of like the Colts in that sense, where they don't want to have their quarterback throw that much unless they have to. Now, I guess to your point, like if I was going to try to back your point up, I would say, okay, well, they didn't have Emmanuel Sanders for a lot of that. Deebo Samuel is starting to come on. So I think it's possible. I don't think.
Well, I think the other thing that you're not thinking about, or you haven't said yet, is the fact that the reason they have mostly run the ball and depended on their defense is because they have had a lead. They have, been destroying teams, and they're about to play, Green Bay, Baltimore, the Saints. These are teams that he's going to have. They're not going to be able to just run the ball on.
To a certain extent, but
you can run the ball on the Packers.
You can, but like, first of all, his running backs have not turned out to be the best in the world. It's going to be hard for them going forward to rely on those running backs, that running back core. Second of all, like, he's going to be playing. He's not playing like the Rams, Washington, Carolina, teams that like are not really that scary of offenses.
But in that, to your point, like in that Washington game, they won that one 9-0. And so, I mean, that could have easily been a situation where he did pass for more, but he only threw for 151 yards. So
why would he have to throw like that? Like, why would he have to throw? They just run the clock out.
Because 9-0 is not like, I don't know when they got that last field goal to put them ahead, but like not 6-0, if you're up 6-0, even 9, that's not a terribly safe lead. I mean, even with Washington, because I mean, if one play goes badly, there's a pick six or a scoop and score. So you're going to want your quarterback to produce a little more.
It was funny. It was 3-0 after 3 quarters. It was 3-0 after 3 quarters. That was easily comebackable.
I mean, see, I think that's just that Shanahan, like, relying on his defense, and I don't think he can do that going forward.
Yeah, I will see.
It'll be interesting. 710's got a question for us. Thanks for hanging in this whole episode, by the way.
Oh, no, don't make it like people are doing us a favor. We provide great entertainment. You should be saying you're welcome for hanging in this long.
He says, should he add Tom Brady from waivers? He's got Deshaun Watson and Kyler Murray.
Why?
No. I mean, he's got a good, if you're just looking ahead to the playoffs, I mean, obviously like Cincinnati in week 15, that's a pretty attractive matchup. But they just don't have the weapons. It's like, just like we were talking about with San Francisco, it's like, he's not, actually he is throwing a lot, like Brady in
a lot of short passes.
Yeah, the Patriots always kind of do that short pass thing. But I mean, he's getting 40 plus attempts pretty much every game. But the last 4 games, 12.9, 18.3, 14.4, 8.5. And, one of those was against the Jets. One of those was against the Browns. One of those was against the Eagles. There's just no, like, if you had to start him, like, that's not, if you had to start Tom Brady and he's going against the Bengals, that's not the worst thing. But when you've got Watson and Murray, there's going to be no situation that I can think of the rest of the year where he's going to be. I mean, maybe next week in that Houston game, like if you need to win next week, I might feel a little better about him against that Houston pass defense than Deshaun against the Patriots pass defense. But other than that, like, there's just really no scenario where you're going to be, starting him over those 2 guys.
Yeah, Tom Brady's like another one of those guys, like what's his name, Aaron Rodgers, who they are amazing players, but for fantasy, they can be solid. Like, but their ceiling. I mean, of course, I'm saying this after Rodgers has like this huge 5 touchdown game, but like in general, like over the year, they're not like they're more of name recognition rather than like real serious fantasy league winners. In the past, like Tom Brady, I think he had 1 year where he averaged 30 or 25 to 30 fantasy points. Other than that, he's like a 15-point quarterback for fantasy.
Yeah, I don't know. Brady, I mean, here's my thing. I think like the big thing, you've got Watson and Murray, who I think you're set. They're especially more consistent just with points and touchdowns too. I think that's the other big thing, because especially with Watson, because he could run for a touchdown. He hasn't done a big one in a while, but he could. And Murray, I mean, he's the best part of that Arizona offense, and they have no run game right now. I think you're pretty much set there.
I did just pick Kenyon Drake up off a waiver wire. Somebody dropped him though. So I'm like,
what?
I'm like, oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, people are just like, it doesn't shock me that people drop these guys. Like, you can find it, like, I can understand somebody like one dummy dropping someone, but then like when no one else picks them up, when I've got like the 8th or 9th waiver priority and no one else picks them up, that's what always shocks me.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a decent reason for that, though. His last few games, they're not good. He doesn't have a good playoff schedule.
Kenyon Drake?
Yeah, he's got the Rams, so but then he's got Pittsburgh. Then he's got Cleveland, so but then he's got Seattle.
Yeah, Cleveland and Seattle don't scare me. I mean, he's had that first game he came in against San Francisco. He had 110 yards and a touchdown. Week 2 against Tampa, like Tampa's one of the best run defenses. And then he bounced back with San Francisco, 16 carries, 67 yards. He ended up catching some balls, and so he had 11 points. But you know, the thing is, like, I mean, you kind of have to wait and see, because we don't know if David Johnson's going to get healthier or what. But you know, they said that last game, like, David Johnson not getting touches wasn't a health issue. It was a performance issue. So, you know, Drake, assuming that suddenly David Johnson doesn't come back into the mix in a big way, like Drake,
which I think is a huge possibility.
It is a possibility.
It's huge. Like I'm saying, like it's probability.
Interesting.
David doesn't play anymore.
Interesting. 710 says you probably have to drop Adrian Peterson to pick up Tom Brady, by the way.
Drop him. Like he's hot. But what I'm saying, Jared, is like I really don't think David Johnson's going to play the rest of the year.
Oh yeah. No, I agree. I thought you were saying that you thought there was a good chance Johnson would come back and be a big part.
I mean, there is, but I'm with you. I think I would have grabbed Jake in a second.
Okay.
Josiah Riggins, welcome back. He asked, this doesn't pertain to gotta ask me a Bears question. You got to ask me a Bears question. This doesn't pertain to fantasy at all. What do you guys think about Mitch Trubisky? Before next year, will he be traded, dropped, or stay in Chicago?
Hello, Cam Newton. How are you doing?
Yeah, they'll sign somebody or trade for somebody. They don't have a first round pick, so they can't draft somebody. But he doesn't start for Chicago next year.
No. Not a chance.
No, even in the topic of will he be traded, I don't even know who
would trade for him.
Yeah, who would trade for him? Maybe
for a backup, maybe.
Like I could see it being a situation where, like, you know what? I think like the only team that could maybe put him to some kind of use would be the Saints. Like if somehow Taysom Hill was out, like
my goodness,
like they would. I'm not like putting him down or like I'm saying like
you're right though. You were right.
Ouch. That's like the role that I could see him in is like Sean Payton bringing him in for specialty packages and stuff like that in like a Taysom Hill role.
I'd honestly rather have Taysom Hill.
Yeah. Oh boy. Look, I think out of those, probably the biggest possibility is that I don't even know. Do y'all know how many years he's got left on his rookie contract? Do y'all know?
I think rookie deals are normally like for
4 years,
4 or 5, depending.
Yeah. Yeah, man, he ain't getting an.
I think he was going to say
he ain't getting any younger.
I think he was going to say he ain't getting an extension because we
were
talking about contracts. So yeah, until he comes back. I think what they'll do is they'll try to slowly, like they'll try to like minimize the embarrassment from this. So they'll bring in another guy. They'll keep Mitch. They'll still pretend like, oh yeah, no, he might be our future. We just don't know. We felt like he needed more time to develop, and it'll be, bullcrap like that. And then a year after that, they'll just let him walk or something. They'll try to slow walk this back in order to minimize the embarrassment. But yeah,
it's going to be a mess pretty much any way this goes. I think, honestly, as long as we don't take another quarterback in 2 years that came from the same conference and went to a national championship and performed better and pass up on him, we'll be fine. But yeah, no, he's not gonna be there. I want him to get, if not Cam Newton, I want him to get Teddy Bridgewater in free agency. I think he's a decent replacement, if not temporary replacement. But man, we've just had so much trouble with picking the right quarterbacks in the last few years.
Go ahead.
What's painful too, when you think about it, is like out of the Duke UNC rivalry, the Bears didn't even draft the best quarterback out of that rivalry within the last 2 years. Daniel Jones. They could have taken the other side of that rivalry, that quarterback. Never mind, like the best quarterback. They thought Mitch Trubisky was the best quarterback in that draft when he wasn't even the best in that rivalry, even though Daniel Jones was taken a year later.
It couldn't have gone any worse for them.
No.
It really couldn't have. You pass up all these future Hall of Famers to pick up the biscuit.
Yeah,
that biscuit.
You trade up. You trade up an extra spot when you don't have to take a player that
They basically said, hey, you take Deshaun Watson. No, who did they trade with?
They traded with San Francisco, so because Chicago was
to move up
3.
One slot.
And what did they give up? I don't remember what
we
they
gave up. We gave up a bucket load. We gave up a bucket load.
I mean, they had to give up something to move up a space. For San Francisco's like, what do you want to do?
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Josiah does say he'd make a point about Phil Simms being garbage before he won a Super Bowl and went to the Hall of Fame.
No,
different player.
No,
that's completely different.
It's entirely about like, what is the guy doing wrong? Mitch Trubisky is not accurate, and he can't make a read beyond his first read. Mm-hmm. And at this point, that's not going to get noticeably better.
Yeah. Yeah, and even oh my goodness, even with that, Trubisky has had one good year, but even with the years he's had, he's still, like, comparatively to Phil Simms, he's still not playing nearly as good. He's still not playing as good.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, a lot of the way he had success last year was the Bears were gimmicky. They were running stuff that people hadn't seen, and it's sports are always like leagues of adjustments, and so whatever you're doing, people are gonna figure it out, and so it's gonna be a question of like, how good are you that you can adjust and win different ways? Yeah.
710, by the way, just says he added Tom Brady and he doesn't have to worry about going against him.
I don't understand. I saw that and I'm like, that is the exact opposite of what we were saying.
Well, then right after that, when I told you he dropped Peterson, you said drop him.
Well, I think we meant like it's fine to drop Adrian Peterson. Like, don't necessarily drop him for Tom Brady.
Oh,
but it's fine to.
He was talking about picking up Brady for Peterson.
Yeah, he said that he would have to drop Adrian Peterson to add Tom. Yeah.
I would. Yeah, I mean, I again, my only caveat would be like next week. Like them playing Houston, he might be a safer play over, Deshaun. I don't know. But beyond that, like there's just no real scenario to play Brady. And if somebody else wants to play him against me, you go ahead. I think there's probably somebody else that if you need another wide receiver or I don't know what, but I think there's probably somebody better out there for you than Brady.
Yeah. Sorry about the confusion, 710. I was saying that Peterson's supremely droppable, but Tom Brady is not very playable especially compared to the guys that you already have. Although I will say, I did want to bring up that this week may be a sneaky Tom Brady game. Why? Even though I think the Cowboys could really damage them, there's all these stories about the Cowboys getting the flu this week.
Texans. Or wait, no. It is. I'm sorry. You're right. Yeah. This week is the Cowboys. Next week's the Texans. Yep.
Yeah. And so the Cowboys getting the flu is intriguing to me, because I thought the Cowboys were going to destroy the Patriots, not destroy, but have a really good offensive game against the Patriots this week. But now with this flu stuff, now I'm thinking, what if the defense, I don't know particularly who is getting the flu, but it's just going through all of the Cowboys. What if a lot of guys on the defense are getting the flu? This could be interesting for the Patriots.
Yeah, just keep in mind, like I said, Brady had, well, he's not been good lately for fantasy purposes.
Yeah. 710 says he's 11 in his league scoring so far. Yeah.
Who is Brady?
Brady, yeah.
I mean, 11, if you're in a tempting league, is not even,
He says he played Watson, so this is for the future. It could work out. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for our 2-hour juggernaut of a RotoHackers episode.
Last week we had 70 views.
88. We're up to 88 now.
Hey, boys, we're inching
closer. We will hit that 100. We'll hit that 100.
What should we do? We should do something for the listeners or for the viewers if we reach 100 views.
I don't know. That should be interesting. What do you guys think? I don't know.
What this?
We got to do something.
Go ahead. What were you gonna say, J Rod?
I was gonna say, what if we get you to promise to give better advice?
My beard itches.
Have him show up in a Derrick Henry jersey and start with that.
How about this? I will. I was already thinking of making T-shirts for the podcast. We'll give away 2 T-shirts.
Oh, seriously?
2 T-shirts, 2 RotoHackers, and one of them may say something like Judah Hearts Derrick Henry.
I might want one of those. I want to get in on it. I guess I'm disqualified because it's one of those rules where members and friends and family members are disqualified from competing. Yeah, exactly. I would like one of those.
Right?
I want to. No, you know what? Better yet, I want to design my own.
Yes,
Jude Buddha based on something this season. Yeah, I would have to think about that one.
Send me your design ideas. I'm going to the presses with the T-shirts this week.
Jared designs a Jude Buddha jersey. Jude Buddha designs my T-shirt, and I design Jared's. That's how it's going to work.
All
3 collectible jerseys.
Okay,
we'll do that. Let's do that. We'll start with that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in. My name has been AJ Herschel, also known as the Kid. Be sure to remember Marvin Jones Jr., who could really help you out for later in the fantasy season. MJJ, I love you, bro. That over there is Jude Buddha. And over there is the absolute stud.
Yeah.
It's Jared. Hope you all have a great fantasy week. Thanks for hanging in with us. We will see you all next time on Tuesday for your Week 13 waiver wire. And I am continually talking because I don't know how to do an outro. So we'll see you all next time.
Just before we